Hey there folks, Oldershot here, and today we're going to recap the third and final day of E3 2013. Sorry, time travel there for a second. 2015, I meant to say, for June the 17th, right? So today was the final day, and it was a little bit different from the previous days. And before I move on, I should also mention I'm also going to be sharing my overall thoughts of this year's E3 at the end of the video as well, so this is kind of like day 3 and overall E3 recap, if that makes any sense. Anyways, moving on, today's E3 was a little bit different from the other days. The other days it was more, a little bit more formal, you know, they had presenters, it was more like a conference, they had shows and all that stuff. Today was more the press booth kind of day, right? So it was a lot more casual. People were actually playing the games that they were talking about from day 0 to day 2. So that was kind of interesting. It was really nice to actually see more gameplay, to be honest. There was a lot less trailers and there was a lot less reveals today. But like I said before, it's more about actually playing the games they were talking about the previous days today. But there was a couple of reveals, and we'll definitely talk about that. And the way the stream were formatted today was also kind of interesting in that instead of having schedule from, like, let's say EA's presentation, then Sony's presentation, etc., etc., everyone's press booth was streaming at the same time, right? There was Rooster Teeth streaming, there was Nintendo, IGN, GameSpot, Square Enix, and Sony, right? So they were all streaming at the same time, and they were all showing off their own respective games and all that kind of stuff, of course. And because of that, I was just kind of flipping through each channel as each one went on break or something showed I wasn't interested in, etc., etc. So obviously I couldn't see everything today, seeing how everything was being played at the same time, but I'll talk about the stuff that I did see anyways. Well, Rooster Teeth had a pretty strong start, I thought. I was watching most of their whoops, my bad. Dropped a bunch of stuff. But anyways, I was watching most of their stream when it started. They brought on Rocco from Mega 64. I'm kind of a fan, I gotta say. I'm a big fan of Mega 64. Watched a lot of them when they were starting off and all that stuff. But he was funny as ever, you know. I definitely recommend checking out his skits from that. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. But anyways, he was lewd as well, which is also kind of funny considering the context of everything. It's very business oriented, right? So anyways, they were also playing a lot of different indie games today on Rooster Teeth, which I thought was a better representation of PC gaming than the actual PC gaming show that they had yesterday, or I guess it would be 2 days for you guys now. But yeah, they played a lot of indie games during their booth as well, which I kind of liked. Yeah, it was pretty good actually. I kind of liked Rooster Teeth's press booth this year, but Nintendo also had some pretty interesting showings actually. Let's see, they played a bit of Mario Tennis. I caught that. I'm not really that interested, to be completely honest. Nothing against Mario games at all. I actually kind of like them. Just not a big fan of Mario sports games for whatever the reason. Mario Kart doesn't really count, so I don't think. But anyways, yeah, but it was there for those who are interested. I'm sure some people are. A more interesting point is they also showcase the Metroid Federation Force game in a little bit more detail today, and apparently Samus doesn't really have anything to do with this game this time around, so that kind of kicked up a bit of a stir, to the point where there's actually a petition now online where there's over 7,500 signatures asking people to ban the game altogether just because Samus isn't in it. And it does look quite different, right? It's a competitive game. It kind of looks like soccer dodgeball almost. It's a little weird, admittedly, right? It's definitely not something that the Metroid fan base would really have in mind when they're thinking about Metroid. But having a petition to ban it outright, that's a little bit extreme, if you ask me. But at the same time, I can understand the disappointment. But to be fair, it's kind of a neat idea to explore the Metroid universe outside of Samus, right? Kind of like the way Haloid, that's not a thing. Halo, it's kind of like the way Halo did with OST, how they explored the supporting characters around Master Chief, as in the main protagonist, and see what their lives and their universe is like, and how they interact with the main story that everybody knows, which is Master Chief. So I think this Metroid Federation Force could be a good opportunity to do that, although it is a multiplayer game, not really a story-driven game, so that might not be an overly strong argument. So there you go, take it as you will. Another really cool game that Nintendo had, in which I thought was really the highlight of today's show, was they showcased a lot of Xenoblade's gameplay, right? That's going to be for the Wii U, and it looks pretty cool, I gotta say, it looks pretty cool. The graphics look really nice. It has a slight anime flavor to it. I don't mind that, but it looked pretty high fidelity. It looked like it was definitely pretty artistic, if you will. It looked pretty, is what I'm trying to say, right? It had this big, expansive, highly detailed fantasy kind of world, and they were like fighting these giant monsters and stuff like that. It was huge and expansive, and I totally can dig stuff like that, right? It kind of looked like a combination of MMO meets Monster Hunter, if that makes any sense, but it looked really cool. I was watching as much of Xenoblade as I possibly could, just because I know I'm probably never going to be able to experience it, because that is a Wii U exclusive. I'm a PC gamer, this is a PC gaming channel, so, you know, c'est la vie, right? But it looks cool. I definitely am keeping an eye on it, especially if I get a Wii U, which probably I won't anytime soon. Anyways, moving on, that was pretty much Nintendo's booth that I consider worth noting. I'm sure there was a bunch of other stuff as well. I think they showed more of Star Fox as well. But yeah, anyways, moving on. There was also Square Enix's press booth, which I did not pay very much attention to at all. To be completely honest, basically because it was just a guy walking around E3's floor talking about a bunch of random stuff, right? There was no gameplay shown, there was nothing interesting talked about, so that was a big skipperoonie. I didn't watch much of that. Sony's press booth showed off a little bit of Mighty Number 9, which was pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that. Big Mega Man fan here. And they showed off a little bit of Mad Max as well. There's going to be a movie tie-in game. Mad Max. I haven't actually seen the latest Mad Max movie, only the classics, which I am a fan of, but because I haven't seen the modern Mad Max movie, I'm not overly excited about the game. And the gameplay that they showed, it kind of looked like Vigilante 8, I think it was called back in the day. It was like this car destruction game in this open world environment kind of format, and the Mad Max game kind of reminded me of that a little bit. It had an open world. They were showing off a lot of vehicular combat and all that kind of stuff. You do control Mad Max, jumping from car to car, driving them, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, not really to my taste. Didn't look that interesting, but maybe it'll be good. I don't know. Who knows, right? As far as IGN and GameSpot, they were just kind of, you know, all over the place as you would expect. You know, they covered as much as they possibly could. I just kind of glanced at them whenever one of the other booths were kind of on a low, if you will. But that's basically day 3 and essentially the final day of E3. I actually found today to be a lot stronger than day 2's, where they really didn't show too much, to be completely honest. I found it to be relatively boring, and the PC gaming show was actually a huge disappointment to me, right? So today was actually a lot nicer, I found, just because even though there wasn't a whole bunch of new reveals or trailers and stuff like that, we actually got to see some actual gameplay from the games they talked about, which is worth way more than any trailer in my opinion. It was even though it was more casual, we got to see more, you know, and that's something I kind of like. Plus there was more like skits and jokes, which I found a little bit entertaining, which is great, of course. But there you go, guys. That's basically the day 3 of E3 2015 recapped, as in June 18th, just to be perfectly clear. But as far as my overall thoughts for this year's E3, I thought it was very, very strong, guys. To be completely honest, I am honestly very, very impressed. I really enjoyed it this year. I have to say, they started off pretty strong with Day 0, right? The Nintendo Championship. That was actually surprisingly kind of entertaining, I must say. I started rooting for one of the competitors. I forget his name now, John something. I was rooting for him because he was showing a lot of skill. But that was actually a lot of fun to watch. Surprisingly, I thought it was going to be kind of lame. And obviously, Sony stole the show. Okay, I'm just going to say it. They are king of E3 2015. I think most people would agree with that. Some people might say Bethesda with Fallout 4. But come on, Sony showed off The Last Guardian, which, by the way, you should still be skeptical because there's not a hard release date for that yet. And they also showed off the Final Fantasy VII Remake, stealing a little bit of Square Enix's thunder. But still, they showed it off at the Sony conference, which definitely stole the show, in my honest opinion. Right? And yeah, they just had a really strong show. And Shenmue, by the way, Sony announced after our last video talking about Shenmue slightly, they announced that they're going to help publish and develop Shenmue. They're going to help fund them as well. So they got the Kickstarter money, they got funding from Sony. It's going to be a pretty big RPG coming year, or a couple years maybe, especially for classic RPG fans. So there you go, E3 recapped. I definitely thought it was really strong. The weakest points were definitely the PC gaming show, and by far the EA presentation. That was absolutely atrocious, I'm sorry to say. Like I said in my previous video, they didn't embarrass themselves, they were just really boring, they went over their time limit, and they had nothing to say, right? But other than that, strong E3 this year. Really strong E3 this year. A lot of titles being announced that we didn't expect. Kingdom Hearts as well as friggin' Xenoblade and all these other great games coming out, right? So it looks like we have a pretty bright future as far as gaming is concerned. I think Nintendo fans are in for a treat, actually. I thought Nintendo had a pretty strong showing this year, and same thing can be said about PS4 owners as well. Even Microsoft got Halo to look forward to, which is good. I respect the Halo franchise, and hopefully we'll see it on PC actually. But anyways, folks, that's basically E3 2015. There might be an after show tomorrow, but I don't think I'll be recapping that because it's probably going to be just a lot of the same of today's show, as in a lot of press booths and recaps and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to skip that. We're going to just end it here. So I appreciate you guys watching. I really do. And look forward to more Let's Plays and game impressions and all that kind of good stuff, right? Like, share, favorite, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Aldershot out.